Welcome to the LFG Pats Pod with your hosts, Joe and Mike. Let's go!
All right, welcome into the LFG Pats Pod. This is episode 7. We like to call it the way too early projections. So the Patriots projections should be interesting this year. There's a lot of moving pieces, a lot of new players, new coaching staff. I think, this is the most we've been excited for the probably past, 5-6 years? I don't know.
I think probably since, I remember in 2021 being excited about Mac.
Right.
And that went south real quick. But
Imagine having a real offensive coordinator.
Yeah, we have a much different, a different flow of the team right now. So I feel a lot better than I did even then too. So,
yeah.
But before that, it was 2019 was the last time I had hope. And our season, even in 2018, we had a terrible season and still won the Super Bowl. That's what we were used to.
Yep.
Now we're just hoping to make the playoffs.
Just showing up and fumbling through to the AFC Championships every single year,
much.
no matter what the roster looks like.
Yeah,
anyways,
they got to kind of dial it in a little bit more than that.
Exactly. Now we have to kind of restart the whole thing. But so we're going to go through most positions. It's very hard to project the offensive line and how many pancakes they're going to have. But so we're going to do that. We're going to start with the quarterback. Now, one thing we're going to look at is we're going to only really project the top players. So we're not going to project every single wide receiver, every single tight end on the roster.
Well, there's so many moving parts. We don't know exactly how these bottom half guys are going to do it. So we're just going to focus on guys that we know are going to be locks.
Mike, Efton Chisholm and Lan Larison are making that roster. I don't care what you say. Anyways.
That's what he says. I agree with half of it.
Yeah. So what it comes down to is we're going to come out with a Drake Maye projection, right? It'll give you the yards, it'll give you the touchdowns, but we're not going to give you every piece of that puzzle, right? We're going to give you the top pieces that we know are roster locks that we feel like we can project, which will include some tight ends. It'll include, obviously the running backs as well because they catch the ball. And then once we get to the defensive side of the ball, similarly, we're going to give you a sacks and interceptions, tackles, kind of overall numbers, but then we're going to give you the key players, how we think they're going to contribute to those total numbers.
Absolutely.
So before that, though, we have a new sponsor, Impact Brandon Marketing. John DiDonato, a fellow Paisan, great guy. We met with him today, actually. We're going to have some new T-shirts, hats, sweatshirts, mugs.
We got merch coming, baby.
All kind of good merch, and we're going to give some away, too, so keep a lookout for that. We're also going to bring some of this stuff to Pat's camp as well. And John he brings an energy about him, this guy. He was our new sponsor. We wanted to let you guys know. Impact Brandon Marketing in Cumberland. Great town, great guy. Check him out if you need anything apparel-wise, anything branding-wise, period. All right, guys, welcome back. So we did not lose our other sponsor, by the way. Rogue Island Kitchen and Bar is still we have 2 sponsors now, so you'll listen to that ad at the end. So, Mike, I'd say let's just jump into it. Drake Maye, I know he threw those 4 picks at OTAs, and it's all doom and gloom now, but what do we think he's going to do?
Well, that's a loaded question because the weight of the world is on this kid right now. We've done so much to try to build around him. We've done so much to telegraph the fact that he is the man. I've mentioned before, we haven't drafted anybody. We haven't gotten any real backup. You got Josh Dobbs. He's not a threat. So Drake's going to have a big year in order for us to be successful. We both think that he is going to be pretty successful. Now, we've looked at a couple of different projections, simulations of the overall season, like what the stats are going to be and whatnot. There's a guy, Mike Clay, who does like a really good breakdown of season projections, front to back, soup to nuts for every single team, including all offense, all defense. So I'm going to reference what he has, but we're going to put our own projections on it. This right here, it looks like a 7 or 8 win team, and I got us winning 11 games.
Right.
So it's going to reflect that in the stats. So, for example, Joe, last year, Drake had, 15 touchdowns and 10 interceptions?
Correct. Yep.
So that number isn't that great, but we have to understand what he was working with.
And that was also 12 games as well.
And it was 12 games, and he was under duress almost all the time.
Exactly.
So I don't some of them were his fault, but I don't put a lot of them on him. I think he's going to have a much better ratio this year. This guy's got him passing for 3,200 yards with 20 TDs and 11 interceptions. I think Drake's going to do better than that.
I agree.
I would think that he would, I mean, with the weapons he has around him now, I would say at least 3,600 yards and at least 25 touchdowns through the air. He's going to have so much more weapons at his disposal. And 11 interceptions, I think, is high. I think he's going to be lower. I'm going to go 3,650 yards, 25 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. And last year, his rushing totals, he had
421 yards,
421
2 touchdowns. And again, this was in 12 games, but he had a 7.8 average. So you take that and extrapolate that over.
Absolutely. And he's going to, I mean, this guy's got him in for 500 yards. I got Drake Maye close to like 700 yards rushing. I'd say like 691.
You're right. And I think I fall in line with you there as far as his rushing goes. Did you say his touchdowns? I forget.
I'm saying 25 in the air, and I'm going to say 3 on the ground.
Okay. All right. So I think I agree with your yards. I'd put him a skosh, maybe 700 yards rushing. But then I'm going to say he has 6 touchdowns rushing.
He might. I mean, once they get close to the goal line, there's all kinds of things you can scheme up to get him in the end zone.
And now you have to guard him. You have to guard Ramondre, run up the middle. You have to guard Travion Henderson. You have to guard, the separation mastery of Kyle Williams and Stefon Diggs.
And if they make the mistake of playing man defense in the red zone, he's going to waltz into the end zone.
Right.
If everybody's turned around looking at the guys that are running to the end zone, nobody's looking at Drake Maye.
Could we be a tush-push team? Who knows?
I would prefer not.
Yeah, right.
I just want to.
We haven't proven that line strength yet.
No, I want everybody to stay healthy, and I don't think Garrett Bradbury is like a Jason Kelsey or anything like that.
I don't think so either, no.
So, but I can see Drake, like, I'm putting 3 as conservative, but I can see him getting more than that depending on the situations.
Yeah, I'm with you, Mike. I think 3,650. I'm going to go a little higher. I'm going to go 3,800.
If I had my way, he'd be over $4,000.
Yeah, so I'm going to go a little higher just because I really do believe in the receiving talent, one, but we were also the top pressured team last year, and I just feel like the ability for us to protect the quarterback both at the line level, at the running back level, we have inline, we have C.J. Dippre now.
It's markedly improved.
Yeah, so I think he's going to have a much better time because we're going to have a run game, boys and girls. Like, don't get it twisted. We're going to have running backs, and you'll see in our projections that are able to really tip the scales here. And so if we're running that play action, I mean, I could, there's a scenario where, like Mike said, he could hit 4,000 yards, but I think both of us want to be a little pragmatic. And so that's where, I'm at, call it 3,800 and call yours 3,650.
I like it.
And I think, I'm probably a little higher on the touchdowns, maybe 27, 28. I think 30 is saying a lot based on this offense.
That would be a heck of a season right there.
And so, where do those 30-something touchdowns come from, right? And, obviously there's Diggs, there's plays we'll get into. But I think we're in the right ballpark.
Yeah, we like to put rose-colored glasses on, but we don't want to go too crazy.
Right.
We want all these guys to exceed the numbers that we're saying, but we're just trying to be realistic about it.
And I'm going to go with 8 interceptions as well. I know you went with 10, so I'm going to go with 8 interceptions. I think when it comes down to it, as long as Drake Maye is protecting the ball and is able to get the ball out with a good amount of time, I think we have more sure-handed receivers. Right, because a lot of those picks last year were a lot of tip balls. There wasn't very many errant balls.
Well, the errant balls were because of the lack of protection.
Right,
So.
Lack of protection, lack of being on the same page with the receivers. Again, these are all things we have to look at. But all right, so I think we're good on Drake Maye. Now let's get into Stefon Diggs, who we didn't talk about yet. Obviously, some news broke with, this boat video. And,
here we go.
Yeah, exactly. Were there drugs involved? Were there not? Mike and I are on the same page with this. Mike, I'll let you talk about it.
Look, it's a bad look. No matter how you slice it, it's a bad look. I always think it's stupid when high-profile athletes allow clips like that to get out. He obviously knew he was being filmed. He obviously knew that what he was doing. I don't know what it was that he was passing out, but the verbiage involved made it sound like it was something. So no matter what it was, it's just still a bad look, and it's a distraction we don't need. Having said all that, nobody got arrested. There's no law enforcement involved here.
Right.
And so if something happens from an NFL standpoint, there'd have to be some pretty damning evidence.
Right, or a drug test, right?
Yeah,
that's what it comes down to.
If they want to test the guy, fine. But this is what Joe and we had trepidation when we first signed Stefon Diggs.
Yep.
Not because of stuff like this, but just because he's just generally a malcontent and sometimes gets in the news for the wrong reasons. Then we started talking ourselves into it. We looked at the contract and the actual numbers, and we started loving it. And we're starting to talk about this guy as a mentor for our young wide receiver room. It remains to be seen whether this guy, I thought he was going to be the perfect person to do that. Now all of a sudden it remains to be seen.
Yeah.
And I don't even
Jury's back in.
Yeah, I don't even put that much stock into all that video and stuff. It's just the high profile nature of he's dating Cardi B and he's on this yacht and getting filmed doing extracurricular activities. Like, there's just distractions we don't need.
Exactly.
So I'm a little disappointed about that. Having said that, I still think the guy's going to come in and still be our number one wide receiver.
I agree. I think it's overreaction season, right? It's the news is getting slow.
We're all starved. We're
starved. We're dying to get something, whether it's an OTA, great catch, or pick, or whatever you want to call it. And this is just the latest of that. And by next week, nothing will come of it, or he gets drug tested and gets suspended. I mean, either way, I'm excited about the team. I'm not gonna project him any differently based on this until the police or the NFL get involved. I mean, it's just it's not a great look, but at the end of the day,
I may be knocked off 2 receptions.
Exactly.
Something along those lines.
All right, so without further ado, Stefon Diggs.
Stefon Diggs, play has him in for 70 catches. On 100 targets for 768 yards and 3 touchdowns. First of all, I think he's going to be healthy to start the season.
Yes.
He looks amazing coming back from the ACL. I think he's going to be a target hog in this particular offense. I'm going 85 catches for Stefon Diggs, and with the potential to even rise depending on what happens in the first few weeks of the season as far as the pecking order, and what kind of chemistry he develops with Drake Maye,
and what kind of game it is. Right, it could be more of a rushing game.
Exactly.
More of this game.
We're gonna have games where we're gonna need to ground and pound it. You know.
Yep.
But we're like, by the nature of us just trying to find our footing, we might be in situations where we need to sling it towards the end of the game too.
True.
So that's when Stefon Diggs is going to come in. I got him in for 85 catches, and I got him in for 960 receiving yards, just shy of the 1,000. So he has a bonus escalator if he hits 1,000. So I don't have him hitting that, but I have him coming very close. So I have that, and I have him catching 6 touchdowns. This guy's got 3. I got 6.
Yeah, and so I think I'm right in the same kind of arena, ballpark, whatever you want to call it. I see Stefon Diggs being a focal point of the offense as well. I think he's got a lot to prove, right? And you put him on the Houston Texans, and he's surrounded by Nico Collins and I think Tank Dell. He was there for like a handful of games. But, he's second, third fiddle. And I don't think that's the case. I think right away you see him as a focal point. Obviously, you have players like DiMario Douglas, you have Kyle Williams, you have other players that are competition hogs. But when it comes down to it, when it comes down to sure-handed, this guy's going to run the routes correctly every time. He's going to make sure he gets an open space. Yeah, I mean, I have him at 95 catches, and I have him at 1057 yards.
Nice.
1057. I came up with a little yards per average calculator.
Joe's got the advanced metrics in his head. It's like a computer in there, just continuously working. It's just working all the time.
Algorithms.
Absolutely.
Anyways, so I really think he's going to shine. I think he's got a lot to prove, and I think he's going to have 8 touchdowns. I think that's probably pretty modest for him. With Drake Maye, throwing as many touchdowns as he is going to throw, I feel like this is, within the realm of possibilities. All right, Mike, so we just talked about Diggs. Now, who's the next receiver that we think is going to get the most receptions after Diggs?
Well, I think it's going to be DiMario Douglas.
Pop Douglas, man. You can't. I've seen more footage of him over the past year plus OTAs, where he just shows me, man, he's got it. He's got the juice. He's got the electricity. Seems like in OTAs he's built a 6th gear or something. I don't know what it is. I don't know if Kyle Williams or somebody taught him this, or he just put in that much work in the offseason. What do you think?
I think as far as targets are concerned, he's going to be second as far as the wide receiver pecking order. If they have him in here 47 catches, I think he's going to far exceed that. I think he's at least a 60 to 65 catch guy. If they have him in for 500 yards, I got him for at least 800 yards. And then touchdowns, I got him down for like 5 touchdowns because I think, like I said, the Josh McDaniels offense, he's the jitterbug in the middle, and he's going to catch all kinds of targets, and he has enough elusiveness to break through if he needs be. So I got him in for 5 touchdowns. I think he's going to have a pretty productive year.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I think I would, the only thing I would do different there is probably bump up his catches, because I feel like outside of Diggs, he's going to be a security blanket. You know, it's going to be in the pecking order of who does Drake Maye throw to. In my opinion, it's probably going to be Stefon Diggs, DiMario Douglas, and probably Hunter Henry.
Yeah.
Right? And so you have those guys as one of your top target earners.
Hunter's his security blanket.
He's a security blanket and a half. So, I don't know. To me, it feels like DiMario Douglas is going to have upwards of 80 catches and around the same yardage you had, 700 yards, 750 I could see. And then, you know, touchdowns, he's not really the best touchdown guy because he doesn't have the top end speed of a Kyle Williams, and he's not a deep ball guy. And the red zone, he can slip tackles, which is good, but do I see him getting over 5 touchdowns? Probably not.
There's a lot of red zone targets on this team.
There is. And then you got Drake Maye, too, who we've talked about, right? Drake Maye is going to get a lot more touchdowns with his legs, too.
Yeah, if they're playing man down in red zone and nobody's looking at him, he's going to waltz into the end zone.
Right. So I think we're both, and I'll have a little more catches, maybe a little less yards. But overall, I think we understand that Pop Douglas is the second target, second read in this offense.
Definitely. And then, you know, after that, it gets hazy, right? Because we got Kyle Williams, which we're going to talk about right now, and Matt Collins. But after that, you don't know who's going to be on the team, who's not going to be on the team. So we're not even going to discuss that. But so what we think, or what I think at least, for the third wide receiver as far as targets is going to be Kyle Williams.
Yes.
And not like a Matt Collins. Matt Collins, he's a good leader, locker room guy, special teams. He's a scheme-specific, like red zone threat and chain mover, but I don't see him getting a lot of volume.
Yeah, he's not filling up the stat sheet.
You don't want to rely on him as your number 1X, you know
Right.
what I mean? And that's why I think Kyle Williams is going to have more volume. And again, he's a rookie, so we don't know exactly how it's going to play out. But they're playing him at the X. And
Yes.
I know he's a completely different receiver than a Matt Collins, but you want that because the guy's way more dynamic.
Yes.
He can run so much more of a route tree. He's a yak machine. I think he's gonna eat in this particular offense. They have him in here for 46 catches. I think that's about right. I think I would give him like 50 to 55 catches in this offense and probably about 700 yards. And they have him in as 3 touchdowns, and I'm going to keep it at 3 touchdowns too, because you never know with a rookie. Now, he could break a bunch of things. Who knows? He could surprise all of us. But there's only so many touchdowns to go around, so I got him at 3 there on that one.
Okay, yeah, I think we're in the same roughly ballpark there. So I'm going to go 60 catches. This guy's working. There's no noise with him. He's just no nonsense guy. And his yak ability and his college production that I saw, I'm putting him up at 850 yards. I think, and I honestly see him scoring 5 to 6 touchdowns. So mark me down for 6 touchdowns.
And a lot of that could be yak too.
Yeah,
once he gets the ball in
exactly.
his hands.
So this guy is he's just gonna show year one. Hey, when Stefon Diggs or whoever's gone, I'm the guy.
He's a playmaker. We just need to wait and see how that transfers to the NFL, but. Yeah, I think they're going to find ways to get him on the field. They're going to find ways to move him around, and they're going to scheme him open a little bit too. Now, they're going to scheme all these guys open depending on the situation, but I think they're going to have a special package in for Kyle Williams just to utilize his yak ability. Get him on a bubble screen, get him on some hitch routes, stuff like that. Have him make a couple guys miss, and he might go to the
long
house.
Crossing patterns, right? You got these long crossing patterns, these pick plays, all these different things to get players open. Josh McDaniels does it better than most people, right? The pick play especially. We had the pick play blueprint that pretty much everyone stole in the NFL at one point.
Well, yeah, and then they try to change the rules because we do it better than everybody else.
Exactly.
Kind of like what the Eagles are going through with the tush push right now.
Exactly. Between Amendola and Edelman, and these guys were masters at the rub.
If the NFL is changing rules because you do something too well, then you're doing something right.
Exactly.
Okay?
Exactly. Belichick was always a master of a lot of things. Showing today that he's not a master of everything, but
that's a whole other episode.
Certainly a master of skirting the rules, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm glad the Patriots did vote yes on the tush push and keeping it, because it's football, folks. If you can't figure out how to stop it, then it's your own fault.
I agree. So that's as far as I'm willing to go with the receivers.
I think so too. I think the only other person we need to talk about is Hunter Henry.
Yeah, Hunter Henry. I mean, I like Austin Hooper too. I thought he was a great.
That's true. Yeah.
I thought he was a great security blanket for Drake Maye.
Made a lot of clutch plays for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. He usually seemed to be in the right spot for Drake. As far as these projections here, they have Hunter in for 52 catches and Austin Hooper for 35. As far as Hunter Henry, I think he's going to get a little bit more than that, but I don't think he's going to get too much. I think he's going to get around 65 catches because, like I said, the ball's going to be spread around so much. He's going to be the security blanket, so he's going to see a lot of looks. But he's not the type of dude, like I just talked about, scheming guys open and making plays. He's going to be basically break glass in case of emergency.
Exactly.
He's going to be up the seam. He's going to be finding the soft spots in zones. He's going to be blocking first and then flaring out, the things that he's characteristically done throughout his career. So I like him for about 65 catches. They have 546 yards. That sounds about right. I'd give like probably 640 yards, and they got 5 touchdowns. I think he'll have 7 touchdowns because he's a red zone target.
Yes,
so I think that's where he's going to do the most of his work right there.
Yeah, I think you're right in the nose, Mike. I think 65. I don't think he'll get as close as 70, but 60 to 65, roughly 650 yards and, 5 or 6 touchdowns sounds about right. I mean, last year with the quarterbacks that we had, 6 for 674 and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And so you think about it, I think he had more of those yards later on with Drake Maye.
Drake, for sure.
So, I mean, he could push for a little more than that, too.
So he's going to have the same numbers as last year, but the difference is all the other guys around him are going to have way, way better numbers.
Exactly.
So our offense is just going to inherently be better.
Yes.
Even if he stays on par, I'm perfectly fine with that. With him getting 60 catches, I think that's an appropriate number. As far as Austin Hooper, just really quick, last year he had 35 catches. And towards the end of the season, like, they were running out of weapons, and he kind of had to look for him more than he normally would have. So I have him dipping a little bit. I have him under 30 catches with maybe a couple of touchdowns and maybe like 300 or 400 yards receiving if he's lucky. I think he's going to be one of the guys that is not phased out, but just not a focal point as far as like who they're going to be spreading.
Hopefully we don't need him as much, right?
Exactly.
Because you have all these other talents that are key separators.
And we have C.J. Dipree, who we want on the roster, the UDFA, and he's not going to get any targets. He might get a couple, but he's a blocking tight end, and we really need that. So he's going to eat snaps from Austin Hooper, too. I think he's a serviceable player. I just don't see him have a prominent role in this offense this year.
Yeah, we needed him a lot more last year, I agree.
Absolutely.
All right, moving on to the running backs, Mike. So, Ramondre Stevenson. I think this is a very interesting position this year. I think we have a lot of talent and depth. We have, obviously, Ramondre Stevenson. We have Antonio Gibson. We have Travion Henderson. And, my draft darling, Lan Larison. And
we have Lan Larison making the team.
We do. We're not projecting him right now because there's obviously still a lot that has to shake out. But I do feel that he will get a decent amount of snaps for a UDFA. Right?
When it's all said and done.
When it's all said and done.
You never know how running back rooms change all the time. They're fluid. Guys get banged up constantly, so you never can tell.
There's injury. There's fumbling problems, right? There's all kinds of things. People get put in the doghouse for sometimes no reason. So, but let's talk about Ramondre. Obviously, Ramondre, the big headline for him was 7 fumbles. He put the ball on the carpet 7 times. You cannot do that. And obviously, we have a clean slate right now, so that's good. But even with that, Ramondre Stevenson, this is the best offensive line he's ever seen.
Probably.
Right? So I'm putting him 950 yards this year.
It sounds right.
I think he's going to get there, but we also have a lot of weapons, right? We got Antonio Gibson.
And he's going to be on a short leash, too. Let's just face it.
Yeah, right. And so does he get benched a game because he puts the ball, he has 2 fumbles early on in the season? Who knows?
It might only take one.
Might take one, right? And so Antonio Gibson, we drafted Travion Henderson very highly. They're going to get him in the game. He is not going to be watching the game that often. He's a young running back. He doesn't have a ton of wear and tear on the tires. I think they're going to get him the ball early and often.
I mean, I think he can be your passing back right off the bat.
Right off the rip,
you know? And usually Antonio Gibson would do that. But Antonio Gibson can also run between the tackles. He's a big dude. So I don't really see them as overlap so much. I think Gibson is kind of a combination between Stevenson and Henderson in that he can run between the tackles and catch the football a little bit.
He had our longest receiving play last year.
Yeah.
50 yards.
So it's going to be interesting because This projection that I'm looking at has Ramondre with 800 yards and Travion Henderson with 775 and Antonio Gibson with only 168. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that.
Right.
I think Gibson is going to get more run than that. I think he played well last year, and he's still a serviceable player. Like we keep saying, we're going to want to road grade a little bit and help Drake Maye out. So we're going to need this stable of backs, which is why we're going to have Lane Larison as the fourth guy, because we're going to need him just in case. But I have Ramondre Stevenson around 950, 1,000, like right in that area.
Yep.
He's still going to be the bell cow, the early down back, and he can also obviously catch the ball too. He's just not going to be relied on to do everything like he has the past couple of years.
Exactly.
Like 2023, he was the only workhorse and passing back. So he had to do everything. That's just too much to ask for one guy. So, but I do like him as the bell cow. I like him like right around just under 1,000 yards. They have him in for 7 touchdowns. I'm going to say 6 because I think some of these other guys are going to just vulture some touchdowns off him, just flat out.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah, so, I mean, I got to have that in. And Travion Henderson, 775 rushing yards. That seems high. They're projecting him to be very involved with that. I would have Antonio Gibson above him. I would put Antonio Gibson at like maybe 600 rushing yards and Travion at like 400 rushing yards. But I also think Travion Henderson is going to get some receptions as well. He might end up getting the most receptions out of the whole backfield. They have him projected at 35 receptions, which sounds about right. It actually does sound about right. And they have Ramondre at 30 catches, which I think also sounds right because he's not going to be in there as much on passing downs.
No, I agree.
But I just think the allocation of the production is going to be a little bit more even between actually all three of those guys. They're going to be all used for different things. Gibson's going to spell Stevenson. Travion's going to come in for all the extracurricular things to block and to run routes. He's not a workhorse at this stage of his career. He might be eventually, but he's not going to get a ton of burn. So I think the running back room is going to be split pretty evenly.
Yeah, I think the only place that I differ here is I do agree on Ramondre's rushing yards. I agree on his touchdowns. I think his receptions are going to take a noticeable hit this year. One of the things that I looked at was his receiving success percentage. His catch rate is high, but his success rate is very low.
Yeah.
So when it comes down to it, I think this is one of the big reasons they drafted Travion Henderson.
Oh, for sure.
And Gibson is the same catch rate, but has a 51.7% success rate. So it's a pretty big swing there. So between Gibson and Travion Henderson, I think Ramondre has kind of painted himself into almost a LeGarrette Blount role.
A little bit.
And so he's under 1,000 yards, knows. And then rushing touchdowns, is it 7? Is it 6? Is it 8? Roughly around there, 6 to 8. And then, when it comes down to it, Gibson and Travion are going to take the reins of the receiving role.
For sure. I mean, they definitely have Ramondre. They're kind of pigeonholing him into that early down back. They wouldn't have taken Travion Henderson that high.
Right, right. So it really just paints that picture of, I could see either one of these guys catching 40 balls.
Yep.
Or both of them.
Yep.
Right? And I think they completely eat into Ramondre's. I wouldn't have him out there at all on third down if it was me.
Neither would I. I mean, I already think Travion Henderson's a better pass blocking back than him.
Right.
So.
And so this is where it gets interesting with Lane Larison, because now instead of having a guy that can do both kind of, and then Antonio Gibson who can do both more efficiently than Ramondre, now you bring in Travion Henderson, and then you bring in UDFA Lane Larison who can do it all. So it's like, do they want one-dimensional guys? I don't think that. They're showing me they don't.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting balance in that room there.
And so I see him.
All signs point to Ramondre being on thin ice.
Yes, he's on thin ice. And by the way, yes, he catches the ball well. He's got 80% catch rate, but he doesn't do much with it. And this is why they brought in Antonio Gibson, and he excelled at that last year. Yeah. They wanted him for that James White role. But now they're looking, I think, at Ramondre and going, you better be like Derrick Henry if you're going to just run the ball. Or you better be at least LeGarrette Blount, and I don't think he's that. So
he needs to be like Braden Swinson. I don't know if you ever heard he carries a football everywhere he goes.
Exactly.
Which is weird for a defensive end. But Ramondre needs to do that.
He does.
The program, remember that movie, The Program?
Yes.
Yeah. They used to make the Omar Epps, he was the freshman running back, and he had to carry it everywhere throughout campus. And any one of his teammates, they would always try to slot it away from him. They need to give Ramondre that same treatment.
So this is going to be one of the interesting battles that I think, obviously we got the the receivers, which we just talked about, and there's a lot of battles there, and competition is going to be great. And then the running back room is going to be the same, where I think that these guys are going to push each other. Maybe we see another level of Ramondre that we're not expecting because maybe he's being pushed quite a bit.
It's going to be all competition in training camp.
Yeah.
That's what this is all setting up, is for competition, and that's exactly what you want.
Yeah.
The cream rises to the top. So it'll be very interesting to see who actually rises. We've seen Larson, and I know some other guys are out, but he's taking first-team reps.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Before Ramondre showed up, he's in the first string, and he's getting first-string blows as a UDFA.
So not Travion Henderson and not Antonio Gibson. Larson was getting the first-team reps.
Kind of unbelievable. Really
I know
is.
it's OTAs. I know it's early, but I read into that.
Yeah,
so I don't care what anybody says.
To an extent, right? You have to. A little bit.
So I think it's going to be a pretty good room, and we'll see how it all gets allocated out. But I mean, that's pretty much the offense, right?
Yeah, I think we're done with the offense. Let's move on to the front seven. Let's go.
One of my favorite things to talk about is this front seven that we love.
Getting all hot and bothered over here, Mike. I'm going to have to calm down.
We just think the combination that they've put together here could be absolutely devastating from a pass rush standpoint. You're going to have guys, I mean, Barmore he's cleared, all right? So he's healthy.
Yep.
So, I mean, will his blood clots reappear? Nobody has any way of knowing
No
that.
idea, right.
But for right now, he's healthy. You got him and Milton Williams on the inside. And then what do you even do with Keon White? Because he can rush from the edge or the interior. And then you got your edge guys, Harold Landry. I mean, he's going to put in work.
Yep.
So you have, like, I'm not going to say an embarrassment of riches yet.
And we're not there yet, but
they had
close.
this combination, and I didn't even mention Joshua Farmer, who I thought was a fourth-round absolute steal, and he's a pass-rushing demon on the inside. So they're going to be able to line these guys up in any type of configuration that you want to see.
Yeah, it's going to get creative. I like it. Taylor Kyles came out with a good stat. I don't know if you saw this, Mike. I think I sent it to you. Milton Williams and Chris Jones led all interior D linemen in PFF pass rush grade on true pass sets last season, and were 2 of 3 at the position with 90-plus grade alongside Jeffrey Simmons.
Yep.
And, oh, by the way, only Dexter Lawrence and Aaron Donald ranked higher than Christian Barmore the year before.
You're talking about elite company right there.
It's insane that these guys are going to get to play with each other. And we've said it in the last episode, these guys are in battles of who can show up and stay later at practice.
I love it. I mean, the fact that, like, everybody can say we overpaid Milton Williams, that's great, that's grand. We've already talked about ad nauseum. We had the money to spend. We needed to build up our team. We did it. But the fact that this guy is putting his money where his mouth is incredibly impressive to me.
Yeah.
It really is. He's in there at 6 a.m. Him and Barmore are trying to beat each other. And Barmore got paid too.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have to go full throttle like that.
Yep.
But he's trying to work his way back. These are 2 very high paid interior defensive linemen that are setting the tone for the rest of that defense. And I love it because they didn't just get paid and decide to just friggin' relax on their laurels.
Exactly.
They're really trying to get after it. They want to build something. They want to do it. So it's a very encouraging sign. And it makes us feel like these guys are going to eat on the inside. Sacks and projections are all over the place with some of these guys.
Oh, yeah, it's wild.
Depending on who flashes. I mean, one guy could have 3 sacks in one game for all we know, and that would skew the whole entire thing.
Yep.
I mean, for example, they have Milton Williams at 5.6 and Christian Barmore at 5.2. Now, I'm sure that you and I both think they're going to go over that total.
Yes, for sure, without a doubt.
So, I mean, I would say I would like to see a good 10 sacks out of Milton Williams.
Yes.
I'd like to see a good... And the tackle stats for interior defensive linemen don't concern me as much as the pressure rates and the sacks. So I don't even care about the number of tackles that he actually gets.
That's not what we're paying them for.
No, I want him to get after the quarterback. So they have him at 5.6 and they have Christian Barmore at 5.2. I got Milton Williams with 10 sacks. I got Christian Barmore with 8 sacks.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think, and Milton Williams, his ceiling is higher than that, right? As an interior, he has Chris Jones disruption, but he's faster.
You're mentioned in the same breath. That means something.
Yeah, of course. And
I haven't even talked about the ends yet, and they're going to get sacks too, you know?
Right. So we were the worst team in the league last year at pressure and sacks.
I mean, you and I both think that this defense has the potential to be a top 5 defense, but I mean, how rose-colored are my glasses if I say right now they're going to be top 5 in sacks? Is that too hot of a take?
Well, I think top 5 in sacks would be a really hot take, but how many of those, defensive plays are in interceptions? Are they in sacks?
Yeah.
Are they in, just 3 and outs, right?
Yep.
I mean, so there's other stats here that we have to consider.
Absolutely.
But yeah, when it comes to Barmore and Williams, I mean, that's the bread and butter of our defense when it comes to the front seven.
I mean, I think it's the best interior pass rush in the league.
Yeah, oh yeah.
On paper, for sure.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
I can't wait for that.
And you wouldn't hesitate last year to say that was Jalen Carter and Milton Williams, right? Who else are you scared of in the NFL and from the interior from a duo perspective? It was Jalen Carter and Milton Williams. I'm not going to say that Christian Barmore is Jalen Carter, but
He has that potential. He really does.
He does. He has the potential. So
I like it. I like the combination up front. I like the versatility, and I think these guys are going to have a monster season. And we didn't even talk about the edges. Harold Landry, we forgot about him, signed him to a big deal. They have him in at 7.3 sacks. I think he's going to get less than that.
Yeah, I agree.
I think he's going to get like maybe 5 sacks.
Because they didn't consider our boy Keon White.
Exactly.
Who is, I think, going to they have him at what, 5?
5.6.
5.6. I think he's a 9-10 sack guy. Just from what I've seen from him, based on getting sometimes double teamed, his one-on-one game, and I think he's going to up that now with this defense. I think he's got more talent around him. You have Carlton Davis, right? There's a lot less time to throw the ball now.
Exactly.
And guess what? When you have time to throw the ball, maybe you're going to be covered.
Yep.
So good luck. Someone's getting a sack. We're going to have a lot of coverage sacks this year.
Our coverage, yeah, you just took the words right out of my mouth. Our coverage is going to dictate how those guys eat up front. But Keon White, this kid is primed to be a beast, to break out. And I know we said 28 sacks last year, so I already have us with just these 4 guys I talked about over 30 sacks, but I still think it's attainable. It's very achievable, and there's a couple other guys that might get a smattering of sacks. I mean, you signed Kaylavon Chase on. They have him in for 0.9 sacks. No clue what his projection is going to be as far as his playing time and his snaps.
Exactly.
But you get Braden Swinson in here with 0.2 sacks, and I just don't buy that.
Asinine.
I don't buy it. I mean,
ridiculous.
He's going to be a situational pass rusher as a rookie. I have him down for at least a couple, right?
Yeah.
You think?
Yeah. I think a handful. I think because like you said, he's going to be a situational guy. They're going to pin his ears back. He's not even going to take his ears off.
He can bend the edge.
And they're going to say,
dude,
get after it. That's the defense. Get after it. Like, you don't need to do anything else. We have guys to do those things. We have Anthony Jennings. We have, Keon White.
They have Jennings in as 4 sacks. I don't see how Jennings gets 4 sacks.
No, I mean, yeah, that's where it's like, okay.
He's an early down guy. He's he doesn't rush the passer at all.
They're taking the things that they know that have been there, and they're giving them the benefit of the doubt, which I get it. But Braden Swinson is far more talented than Anthony Jennings. He was as high as a 3rd-round pick. I saw him mocked as a 2nd-round pick at one point. And so, yeah, some of these things are definitely off. But, yeah, I think we're roughly the same. We're probably about, I'd say we're close to 50 sacks.
Yeah, right when it's all said and done. I mean, you got Williams in for 10. You got Keon in for 8 to 10. You got Barmore in for about 8. And that's not taking into the odds and ends that you're going to get with the Joshua Farmer or the other guys that we just talked about, and not to mention the linebackers.
Right.
You know what I mean? So we have some linebackers too. Now, I don't see them going too nuts, like blitzing from the linebacker position, but that's also going to account for at least a couple of sacks.
Yeah, they got the Spillanes, the Ellises, Gibbons.
Yeah, they got Spillane in for 2.5 sacks, and they got Jelani Tavai in for 2 sacks. I'm not even sure Tavai's going to make this team. And
right.
I've said that before.
This, yeah.
The only reason I would have pause about that is because he hasn't gotten cut yet. So they're bringing him in to compete, but he just doesn't really fit the mold of the type of linebacker they're going. Like the other 3 guys, Spillane, Ellis, and Gibbons, are those smaller, faster coverage type of linebackers. And Jelani Tavai is an absolute thumper. And he's decent off the edge too. But he doesn't fit what they do for off-ball linebackers. So I'm very curious to see what he does. But I'm not willing to give him 2 sacks.
Yeah, and I think basically the body of work for a lot of these players is there. I think the thing we haven't seen in a while since, Ty Law, Asante Samuel, you have Aqib Talib and Darrell Revis. I mean, this is our version of that, right? Pretty much, yeah. We have Gonzo and we have Carlton Davis, and guess what? Now you have to beat us in a different way. You have to run the ball on us, and you got to run your play action well. Because guess what? You're not just going to be able to run 3 wide and hope that that third guy gets open, because your first 2 players are going to be out of the game. That's my expectation.
That's
here.
one thing that I can say. We might struggle against the run based on our just the makeup of the roster.
Right.
Like I understand getting smaller and faster, but that's kind of a little bit of a double-edged sword. I know it works for today's NFL, but they're going to have to just keep an eye on it, which is why they signed a guy like Kairos Tonga, that huge defensive lineman.
Right.
Like he'll probably
and Joshua Farmer was another,
Yeah, they'll
nod
probably
to that
get
a little
early
bit.
work, like as far as stopping the run. But yeah, this team is more built for speed, especially at the linebacker position. I mean, they gave Spillane a bunch of money. Christian Ellis, they signed him to a much larger contract than I thought he was going to get. So that's specifically the type of guy that they're targeting.
Yeah, and then you match that up with some of the teams that we're going to play against, right? We're going to play against the Bills, great rushing team. The Ravens, who we could see them in the playoffs, right? Who knows?
We might get hurt against the
And
Ravens.
so this is where it gets tough. So it's like Mike said, it's a dual-edged sword. But when it comes to sacks, when it comes to coverage, I think we're going to be great. Run game, I guess we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. They haven't, so we pretty much did the edges, right? Harold Landry, Keon White, we talked about those guys. As far as the linebackers are concerned, when it comes to them, that's when I do look at number of tackles.
Of course,
you know what I mean? So, like I said, it wasn't as important for the interior defense, but for these guys it is, because Robert Spillane is built to be a tackle machine. That's exactly what he is. So he's going to be able to, guys are going to hold the linemen up so he can find his spot and flow toward the ball. They have him in as 146 tackles, and that's a lot, but I see him getting even more than that.
Yeah.
I see him getting like 170, 175 tackles. I see this guy getting almost 10 tackles a game. I know that's a lot.
But it's a 17-game season, right? So, I mean, it matches up.
He's a 3-down player. I mean, he can stop the run. Even though he's a smaller guy, he's a stout dude. You ever see his neck?
Oh, he's a beast.
The guy is...
I would not want to be in a bar fight with him not on my side.
No,
sure.
And he also happens to be the nicest guy in the world. It's crazy, you know?
Yeah, he's a family dude, yeah?
Yeah, he's a great guy. He's a fantastic tackling machine. So I see him getting a lot of tackles. They have him in, like I said, 146. I got him down for like 170. They have him getting 2.5 sacks and 1.1 interception. That sounds about right.
Yeah.
And he could be opportunistic and get more than 1 interception. And I don't know how much they're going to blitz him, but I think 2.5 sacks and 1 interception is good for him. But I think he's going to get a lot of tackles.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm not going to add too much to this. I think number of tackles, right? Sacks at this position, it's debatable, but I think he will be the premier tackling machine, like we said. I think that'll be his role. There's nobody else who does that role better on our defense.
No, and they have Tavai in here as for 108 tackles, and Christian Ellis at 36 tackles, and I would flip-flop those.
Yeah.
I think Christian Ellis is going to get about 100 tackles.
He's going to be flying around the field a lot more, I agree.
He's going to play a lot. People might not even know who he is because he was basically a fill-in last year, but he played excellent, and he's a very good coverage linebacker. So I see him getting a lot of run. I see that Jack Gibbons kid getting a lot of run. When we did our roster projection, I had those 3 guys as the only 3 linebackers making the squad, because I feel like our strong safeties are also hybrid linebackers.
Right.
So that's why I went low on these off-the-ball linebackers. But yeah, I don't see Tavai getting 100 tackles in this defense.
Yeah, some people saying Jabril Peppers might not be on the roster. I'm like, what?
I mean, that's another tough one. That really depends on how Mike Vrabel feels about the guy off the field. If Vrabel really felt that strong of a way, this guy would already be gone.
I think
because
so, too.
he's
already shipped out people for less reasons.
Yeah, he's been sending people packing left and right. So as of right now, I am operating on the assumption that Jabril Peppers is going to be a part of this team.
Yes.
I'm operating that he's going to be a huge part of this team, and I'm also operating that he's going to stay in the box a lot. And this guy... I love this guy, okay? I don't care what happened off the field or anything like that.
I agree.
He strikes fear into the heart of offensive players. He is a beast.
Yeah.
He is an absolute beast. You see the way he hits guys? When he hits you, you got hit.
He's a field general.
You
sure.
know it. You know what's going on. He is a dog.
He's like a Rodney Harrison without the talking, because Rodney Harrison used to be super vocal.
Oh my
Jabril
God.
just lays the wood. He doesn't care.
He's one of the hardest hitters I've ever seen in my life, and that's why I don't think we need any more linebackers, because this guy can do it. I don't want him in the back half. You already know that.
He's a liability, yeah.
I don't want him playing free safety or even split safety. I want him in the box. So I think he's going to get a lot of tackles too. They have him in for 96 tackles. I got him going over 100 tackles. I think he's going to get at least like 110 tackles. They had Kyle Duggar with 102 tackles. I think Peppers is going to get more because I think Duggar, even though I don't think he's any good at it either, I think
he can play that next
level.
I
think they're going to play him a little bit back, especially because of how much he struggled with tight ends last year. I don't think they want to duplicate that. So I think that he is going to kind of play. They're going to try to make him more. This is me speculating. I'm not, I'm just reading the tea leaves. I think you're going to see him more in a split formation.
Yeah, if you had to say from the safety position
between the two of those guys,
who's stronger up front versus to the middle towards the back, you're putting it in that order. You're saying Jabril Peppers up front, you're saying Kyle Duggar in the middle, and then you're probably saying Craig Woodson in the back, right?
I mean, he's going to have to be.
Or Jalen Hawkins or whoever, whoever your coverage center field guy is going to be.
I like those guys. I like Jalen Hawkins. I like Marcus Epps. I don't know if there's room. I have them both making the team. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if there's room for them. But as far as I'm concerned, there's a need for them. Those guys are free safeties.
Yeah.
I want some free safety. We need a couple of free safeties.
Yeah,
who have we had that can actually play that position since McCourty retired?
Yeah.
He's the last true free safety that we had.
Yep.
So I like some of those guys sticking around. And as far as just one more thing I want to mention with the safeties is Marte Mapu, who can't stay healthy. He was a third-round pick a couple years ago. He can't stay healthy. He doesn't quite have a role, but he is 6'3", 230. So if they don't move him to linebacker, then he's not making the team.
I agree.
This guy can't play in the back.
No way. He can't do what Peppers and Duggar do.
He hits like a truck, don't get me wrong, but he plays more like a linebacker. So if they recognize that, they can actually use him. I don't even know if he's participating in OTAs, to be honest with you.
No, I don't either.
But in training camp, if this guy is in the safety group, then I am having him cut from the team. So if he is practicing with the linebacker group, I have him in. Just bottom line. He's kind of a wild card in that safety room.
All right, so where do we sit at with total sacks?
Total sacks right now, we have 40. That's this projection, but I have closer to 50. I think we both have like 50, because we went over on almost like a couple different guys.
And a few guys we brought down too. But yeah, I'd say we're upwards of 50 to 50. I think that's right, because I think when it comes down to it, if you dare to pass the ball against us, I think if I was to attack this team, I'm attacking the run, I'm trying to pound the rock. And when I'm not doing that, I'm going on play action. And at times, I'm probably going to go 5 wide because I'm going to test your third and your fourth corner. And that's how I'm coming at this team. But how is that going to work with the coverage guys that we have? We have Alex Austin, who we haven't talked about quite a lot, where I think he's one of the better slot corners in the league. And then you have Carlton Davis and Gonzo.
And Marcus Jones too. He's got to show.
And Marcus
off
Jones
year.
as well, right? He's kind of shown as more of a specialist at this point, and he's been thrust into some defensive roles, obviously as at corner.
You can't play him out on the boundary. He's a slot guy only.
He's a liability. But when you're going 4 wide, when you're going 5 wide, he's going to be out there, right? And so I feel pretty good when they go in those situations. Where I don't feel great is when they go into power I and different situations where there's a power run game involved.
Yeah, we might get exposed a little bit on that.
But from a sack perspective, I feel really good. From an interceptions perspective,
who knows?
Anyone's best guess.
Yeah, we have, they have it in as 13, but aside from the 2 lockdown corners, I don't know who's getting all these interceptions. Gonzo and Davis are going to get their fair share. Duggar is always good for a couple of opportunistic ricochets and things like that.
Yeah, I could see us around 15 interceptions.
15
I think that's probably fair.
I think we're going to do more work pressuring the quarterback than actually forcing turnovers in the back end. But that's going to be because the back end is doing their job.
Right.
So that's the way I think it's going to work, inside out like that. I love the fact that Vrabel built this thing from the trenches out. The offensive line is still a work in progress when it comes to that, but the defensive line, they did it masterfully. I think it's a great roster, so I'm really excited to see the combinations that they dial up when it comes to the whole defense, not just the front 7, the whole thing. So it's going to be pretty fascinating.
Awesome. Well, guys, we just went through the whole offense and the defense. Thank you guys for tuning in. Here's a quick word from our other sponsor, Rogue Island, though.
Rogue Island Local Kitchen and Bar in Providence, Rhode Island offers a fresh take on new American cuisine. We have a focus on locally sourced ingredients with over 55 local craft beers and expertly crafted cocktails. We're the perfect spot for foodies and drink enthusiasts alike. Follow us on social media at Rogue Island for daily specials and upcoming events you won't want to miss.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for tuning in. Two great sponsors we have, Impact Brand and Marketing and Rogue Island. Check them both out. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot us a DM on X. Follow us always at Joe LFG Pats Pod, at Mike LFG Pats Pod, at LFG Pats Pod or podcast on Instagram. We're on X. We're on TikTok.
We are easily findable.
Easily findable. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, you name it. And look out for our gear. It's coming soon, and we'll show you how to get it.
We got merch coming. It's going to be awesome.
All right, boys and girls.
Let's go.
Let's go.
LFG, baby. Woohoo.